Well, here we are, round 2 of week 12, UNIX shell scripting and utility cis204, Johnson County Community College. So, cheese goes away. Where we left off was looking at for loops, and if I go back to the previous slide, we looked at that situation where the original attempt to run this while.awk couldn't deal with line 4 because the way the while.awk script is set up, it sets the I to 1, and if I is less than or equal to the number of fields, it will print the field number, the number of fields, the $I, the value of $I, and will increment the I. So what you ended up with was, if we go back here, you'll see 4 fields Bob list. There are 4 fields in that record: Bob, list, 298, and then the 3 semicolons. 10 Dallas, 1 and 2 colons. 42 Smith, and then 3 dashes. So again, it did not find line 4 because line 4 was set to 0. So we fix that by setting the I equals 0. But the fun thing is, if I is equal to 0 and field 0 is listed, it lists the entire line, because what is $0? $0 is the record, and the record by default is a line. So we saw how that worked. So there's another cheap way of doing a for loop. So does basically the same thing as a while loop. So if for, and this is always inside the parens, I equals 0, I is less than or equal to the number of fields, then increment I, and then print the record number, the number of fields, and $I. So let's try this. Let's give this a shot. So awk, and we'll give that. We've got to use the curly braces. So the curly braces go there. Let's do this. Let's set this up. Get a copy of that into here. Paste that. And the file is while underbar test. Yeah, actually, the file is lowercase while underbar test. So, would you believe that might work? And there again, you've got it. Did the same thing as that rather clunky I equal 1. So, it just did a for. Set the parameters for the for loop inside the parentheses. I equals 0 to begin with. How can I fix that so that I don't see all of the whole records? Well, set I equal 1. But now I don't have line number 4, do I? And that's okay. That's how you can make that work. So, okay. So we looked at a, and we ended up doing this in class week 11. We did a grade. So the first field contained a string. The remaining fields are numbers. So the for loop is going to ignore the string but accumulate the numbers. Now, the fun thing is when you start adding numbers that should be looked at as strings, like a student ID field, it can get sucked into the accumulation and be treated as a number. So that's something you have to be aware of. So let's take a look at this break statement. To break out of a loop when a condition is met. So this is to do this as a begin statement. Curly braces to say I'm going to do an action. X equal 1, while 1, print iteration if x is equal to 20, break, and then x plus plus. Okay, so what have we got going on here? Let's see, I should have a little break.awk -f break awk. Now, will it run? Why, absolutely. Why did that run? I didn't give it a file name. Well, the reason it ran is because all it is a begin statement. It just says do this. And what does it do? Well, would you believe, word count -L, how many should I see? If this is working correctly, I should see 20. And that's exactly what I get out of that. Okay, so that's a loop control. Now, the continue statement will match a condition, then continue on to the next item. Look at the output of this carefully. So I want to do a begin. I want to do an x equal 1 while x is less than or equal to 10. Then, if x is equal to 5, increment x and continue. Otherwise, print the value of x and x++. Okay. Let's see what we've got here. And we got to continue. Let's take a look and make sure that this file is what we want it to be. There it is, x equal 1 while x is less than or equal to 10. I'm going to set x to equal 5. Then I'm going to increment x and continue. Otherwise, I'm going to print the value of x, and then increment x. So what will this do? awk-f continue dot awk. Okay. Let me show you in the grand scheme of things. This is the little kid's trick. You can tell a kid that you've got 11 fingers. And it's real easy to do, and the kid will believe you. So you tell the kid, hey, I've got 11 fingers. No, you don't. Yeah, I do. All you have to do is every time I say a number, you say 4. So, here we go. Back away from the camera here. So, 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4, 7, 4, 8, 4, 9, 4, 10, 4, 11, 4. I've got 11 fingers. Same thing's happening here. What's happening is in this loop, it looks at the value of x. If x is equal to 5, it does not print the value of x. It prints 1, 2, 3, 4. Once it found the value of I, it incremented x to 6 and continued without processing that print statement. So that's an interesting one to have hanging around. That's a good little device. Okay. How about program control statements? So here is a situation where the next statement gets the next record, the next line, from the input file and restarts execution at the top of the awk script. So if $1 is if Peter is contained inside $1, then next, else print. So the exit statement can be used to stop an awk program. You can use an exit value 0 to 255. Again, 0 and 1 and 2 are reserved. 127 and 128 are exit statements that you don't really want to use. Associative arrays. How are we going to deal with arrays? So it's an extension of variables. Arrays are variables that hold more than one value. Okay. An array is a table of values called elements. An array is created by using it like variables and must have a unique name. You don't have to declare the array. You don't have to do anything like that. Again, awk is rather... It's not as finely built as other programming languages in the sense that you would have to declare it. Otherwise, basically what awk says is if I don't know what it is, I'll declare it a variable, and if you do certain things with it, I'm going to call it an array. The associative array uses strings as an index. So how do I create an array, an index for an array? So I set the array name, I set the string, and then I set it to a value. So an array name is the name of the array, string is the index of an array, value is any value assigning to the element of the array. So for example, number is $2. The array name is number. The index is the string found in field 2. The value is not set to anything other than the string. There is no value outside of the $2. That is the index. So if I'm building an array of words, thinking of project 5, what I would do is I'd declare an array, and I might say words, square bracket, whatever the $NF is, the field. Okay, so every field becomes a number. Now here's the fun thing. Once it sees a value, it will not create another element of the array with the same value. But you can use that other position in the array to accumulate a count of the number of times that element has been found inside your search area. Okay. So the string value is unique. A recurrence of a value in field 2 will not create a new index in the array, which is what I just basically stated. So what happens is it looks for $2. If $2 is the word the next time it finds the word it doesn't create a new element in the array. An element, a unique element, can only occur once in that array. So if you want to count the number of times a string has occurred, then you add this array name string plus plus. The plus plus will create a count of the occurrences which you can use later. Oh, now you're seeing how you can deal with project 5. So here's an in-class project. Basically, we'll end up building an array to count the occurrences of unique values in field 6 of the following file. So I've got, in this case, Bob is field 1, 123 field 2, 956 field 3, 127 field 4, Tim, and then 231 field 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, actually field 6. So 57 is in field 6. Here's another 231, a 231, a 231, and a 231. So let's see what we've got out here that I can show you this with. So group test, right? Let's take a look at group.awk. Okay, so here's a cheap array to test with in class. And we'll take a look at this when we get there. Num $6 plus plus. So every time you see a unique value in $6, create an element in the array, and every time you see that element, again, increment the count of the number of times it shows up in the array. So there is a file out here called group test. Let's take a look at group underbar test. Okay, there it is. So now let's do this. awk-f group.awk, right? And we'll run that against group underbar test. Nothing occurs one time. Jim occurs one time. 57 occurs one time. 2001 occurs one time. 1 occurs one time. And then look at that. 231 occurs 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Why doesn't it occur here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 6, and the mark of the beast, 6. Okay. So notice that field 6 can contain numbers, though the array will treat them as strings. Okay. So here's the example resolved. So num $6 plus plus and var in num, print var occurs num var. And what is that printing? That prints this, whatever that increment count is. For var in num, the variable in num, print the variable, and this is whatever $6 is. That grabs the unique element in the array, and then because you've asked for this plus plus, it will then print the number of times that variable has occurred, because numVar is actually whatever this number is. Okay. Moving on. awk will read each record and add an element to the array if field 6 exists. So the line in the awk file that creates the array is num $6++, and it has that semicolon. In this case, num is the array, field 6 is the index key, and plus plus asks for the count. Num to be incremented each time an array element is encountered. So it counts recurrences of a value. So once awk has read each record, you can use n to provide output of the array. So in this case, we use that n statement. We're not reading and implementing this value or this thing each time we read a record. This only occurs at the end of the awk statement. So what's happened is awk has created an array in memory, and your end statement asks it to output the contents of that array. So the var is the unique element. Print the unique element occurs, and the numVar is that incrementation that you did. The num square brackets, whatever the variable, in this case $6, the close square bracket, and plus plus created. So the array exists of the unique element and the number of times that unique element was encountered in the records that you ran through awk. So again, in this case, var is the element identifier and num is the array name. That was the name of the array that you gave it. The print statement prints the unique element key of the array and how often it occurs in record 6. In this case, in the records in field 6. Okay. So the proceeding produced the output, and it looked like what we saw. Nothing occurs one time, because I believe one of those records had a 0 in field 6, or nothing in field 6. Jim occurs one time, 57 occurs one time, and 231 occurs 3 times. Notice that the numbers and strings are treated as strings, and the line with no field 6 is treated as a string of white space, which is what we expect. Okay, now at this point, I'm going to finish part 2, and we'll pick up with part 3, how you might be able to find everything inside a file.